And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and he who sat upon him was named Ransomware. Welcome back, Joe Brunsman, Insurance Broker to the Stars. Today, a video you're not going to want to miss. This is the next big evolution, the big scary evolution in ransomware. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. Now, first, yes, you are a target. If you don't believe me, pause the video here if you really need to. Find your industry vertical. But moral of the story is they will come after you if they can get you. Now, having sold cyber insurance and E&O insurance to all types of businesses across the country, this is what I get from business owners who have never been through a ransomware event. This is what they think happens. They go, okay, if you get hit with ransomware, what are you going to do? You're going to pay the ransom or you're going to restore from backups. Maybe you're down for a few days, but then you just get back to business. It's a long weekend, some additional stress, but who isn't stressed out these days, right? No. As a matter of fact, it is so much worse from that. It is hard for me to tell you the stress, the anxiety, the pressure that I hear in these other business owners' voices when they're going through this type of event. So please take this information seriously. It could save you a lot of heartache. Now, this is just an example. This was years ago at this point. I think almost 5-6 years ago. Anyways, this is the United States versus Savandi and Mansouri. They encrypted their particular victims with a strain of ransomware called SamSam. Now, what would they do? First, they would conduct reconnaissance and research. They were specifically targeting different types of businesses. Then they would launch that ransomware simultaneously across the network on all the computers to maximize the impact there. And they would often go in and encrypt backups first because they knew that that was kind of like the immediate next step that a business would try and do. So if the backups are also encrypted, yeah, that business is probably going to pay at that point. Moving forward, we have attack loops. What is an attack loop? Unfortunately, not as tasty as a little crunchy cereal that you see in front of you. First, you get hit with ransomware, but it's not activated yet. It just sits there. It starts infecting your files. It starts lying dormant. This means that you can start infecting backups with ransomware. Once that activation takes place, it can take down months, weeks, months, years potentially of backups inside of your system there. So what are they trying to do there? Once again, just motivate the payment. You're going to see a common trend here. Now we're starting to see double encryption. This is kind of a new thing that's on the block. Once again, trying to maximize the odds from the bad guy side that you are going to pay them. So there's two primary methods that kind of fall under this double extortion here. Double encryption. First is something called layered encryption. So first they're going to encrypt your files and then put another level of encryption on top of that, making the restoration process that much harder, nay, impossible. The other way is something called side-by-side encryption. And this is where some files are going to be encrypted with strain A and some are going to be encrypted with strain B, which just once again maximizes the odds that you're going to have to pay the bad guy potentially twice to get two different keys here. But you'll see, they are just going after money. Now, we also have double extortion events. And this is not fun. I've had a client go through this. So I've spoken about this before. First, they're going to steal your data. Then they're going to encrypt your data. Then they're going to either say like threaten to leak that data unless you pay, or first you're going to pay them the ransom to unlock your files. And then they're going to come back at you and say, hey, you see this list of files we have here? Well, this is your information. If you don't pay us again, then we're going to leak all this information on the internet. Now, maybe you're a business and you're like, hey, I'm not holding social security numbers or driver's license numbers or bank account information or whatever the case may be. Well, you probably have corporate information, trade secrets, client lists, a whole bunch of stuff that if it got let out on the internet, that could potentially bankrupt your business. So once again, they're doing everything they can to maximize the odds they're being paid out. But this is not yet the worst variant that we have seen. Next is triple extortion, and we have already seen this in the wild. What is this? Well, first, they're going to steal your data. These first couple steps sound like something you've already heard. They're going to steal your data. Next, they're going to encrypt your data. Then they're going to demand a ransom to unlock your files. Then they're going to threaten to leak the data unless you pay the ransom, possibly again. So now you're looking at one ransom to unlock your files, a second ransom to not leak the data wholesale on the internet. And now we've seen these cyber criminals individually go after people. So not the business. This would be the clients of the business. They're personally contacting them and ransoming those guys so that they're not going to release their own personal information on the web. So we saw this most recently where it was a healthcare provider, some type of psychiatrist or psychologist, where the bad guys then started reaching out directly to current and former clients of that medical clinic saying, hey, if you don't want all of your personal information released here, you're going to give us about, say, like $500 in Bitcoin. Now, that is terrifying to say the least. So what does all of this really mean when we start packaging all of this together? Besides the fact that these people are going to suffer a very, very, very terrible outcome later in life. Well, one, higher likelihood of post-ransomware lawsuits. I think we're going to see a lot of these start popping up, especially with that triple extortion, triple ransomware type event, where clients of businesses who have been impacted, they can directly point to emails with confidential information in there, and they're going to say, hey, we're going to band together as a class. We're going to start implementing class action lawsuits against these businesses for failure to properly secure information. Next, much higher likelihood of ransomware payments. Now that this is getting out in the world, probably the last thing a business wants to do is potentially risk their own clients getting ransomed, because obviously those clients would not be clients for much longer. We're also going to see a higher likelihood of regulatory inquiry. So when medical information gets thrown out into the world, if you had, say, 1,000 different individuals all going back to HHS OCR and filing these complaints like, hey, the bad guys came after me and are threatening to release my personal information on the web if I don't pay them, yeah, you could see a big crackdown from the regulators for that. Next, just please talk to your IT, talk to your MSP. Look at those fundamental controls that you may not have yet in place. See if there's a way that you can affordably and reasonably increase your security posture, because the moral of the story here is don't poke the bear. If you could find a way to minimize the odds of having to make these decisions or being on the other end of these communications from bad guys, that is something that I will say is well worth the cost when you think about it in retrospect. Next, make sure you have appropriate cyber insurance. And I think we are seeing kind of a sea shift here, a sea change in how cyber insurance companies are thinking about ransomware. So the limits are going down. They're already starting to demand very specific controls be put in place. So for example, cloud backups with MFA or 2FA attached to them. So with that, if you're not going to get those controls from your IT or MSP, you're probably going to see some of those requirements coming forward from your cyber insurance carrier. You also need to make sure that you actually have appropriate cyber insurance. Do you know what that means? Does your broker know what that means? Probably a slim chance there on the second question. So make sure you are doing your homework and you are working with someone who really focuses in this area, because cyber insurance policies are all different. There is no basic cyber insurance policy out there. When in doubt, just seek legal counsel, because they can do a lot to help you. If you'd like to learn more about that, I will post a link up above to a video I made about that topic. All right, this is my latest book, Damage Control, Cyber Insurance Compliance. If you like this video, that is where you can download it for free. And if you found this useful and you learned something, please like, share, comment, subscribe, because it feeds the algorithm, which means we can help more businesses with this type of information. And with that, stay safe.